Well, there. Happy New Year, everyone. Surprised to see Tisha. I want to say Happy New Year again to everyone. I'm officially here. We are. It's okay. With all that being said, let's check all the techie stuff, okay? So if you're just joining us in, welcome. I want to make sure that you can hear us, you can see us, all that good stuff before we get started. And just give me a thumbs up if we all good. All right, all right, sounds like we're on the go. Wonderful. Like I said, I want to say thank you for everyone for the well wishes over the holiday and the new year. And I want to say I am so happy to be back. And with that being said, this week, I think we're doing this every day, right, Cecily? 3 days? Okay, wonderful. 3 days of sewing this funky friend uh, teddy bear, which I think is so cute. Um, it's really dear to my heart because you can actually know how to make this for a small child, but you can make this for the holiday, make it for Valentine's Day, and or you can make it out of something you want, like a memory bear. I think a lot of you all know that my mom passed away a few years ago, and when I saw this, I had collected her clothes and didn't really know what to do with them. And so when I saw this product, I said, "Oh, I can make this teddy bear, and I don't have to hold on to her clothes, but I just want to remember. Every time I look at something, I can remember her." And so I am going to be working through this project as well with some little therapy for my mom who's upstairs. With that being said, let's get started. Um, we have this pattern, okay, and we're going to be working from this pattern piece here, okay? And let's go ahead over to the cutting table. Let's break this bad baby down, okay? We're giving some thumbs up and everything because it's just me and Cecily, and I just pushed my own button. I just did that. All right, so here we are. Working with this pattern piece. And in it, it has not only instructions, but the pattern pieces as well. So let's open this up, and I'm going to dissect this for you guys from beginning to end. That's right. Now, in the center, you'll notice that there's some pattern pieces here, so let's set that aside. And this booklet has all of our instructions. It's going to give you so much information, additional information, even some different options as to sewing your pillow, what your fabric's going to look like, different options for accessorizing your bear, whatever it is that you want. Okay, it's going to be some basic techniques on some hand stitching and some embroidery as well, and so and some more information as well. So go ahead and get started to the instruction sheet. Okay. I'm sorry, the patterns. All right, one thing, if you know about So Creative Lounge, oh my God, we love to do what? We love highlighters, right? There's a lot of pieces to this. One, two, three, four, five, six. There's 6 pages to this bad baby, right? So because we have so many pieces and we have so many small pieces, I highly recommend let's highlight some of the things that we know we need to do before we start cutting this out. Okay. So I'm gonna slide these to the side. Let me start with that very first page. So I recommend making sure you have some nice highlighters to the side. We're gonna go through the supplies in a few minutes. But while we have the instructions here, let's just go ahead and highlight these pieces while we have them in front of us. I have several color highlighters, so I'm gonna start with the first one first, and that is the yellow. And I'm just gonna highlight the name of these pieces, okay? Each piece has a name to it. So for example, this is the tummy, this is tummy, and if you notice, this piece says join pieces here together. So I know I'm gonna have to take these two pieces and put them together. So that's a good thing to know. Moving on to page two, this is the back, the outer arm, the inner arm. And so what I'm doing is really getting myself familiar with the pattern pieces. The more I refer to them in their name, the more I get comfortable with the pattern. Forehead, the nose, and I'm gonna just keep going forth. Just highlighting the name of those pieces. Okay. So we have the forehead, the nose, the ears, the face. and the back of the head, the side of the head, the foot pad, outer leg, and inner leg. Okay, nice to know. These pieces sound like what I will find in a teddy bear. One thing before we come back, and we'll come back to this and start highlighting some other things, but it's just nice to know that, okay, this pattern piece sounds like a teddy bear. That's good to know. We're going to come back to this later. So now I know I have my pattern piece, my instructions. Let's turn over the back and let's talk about the supplies that you're going to need. Okay, supplies you're going to need. Now, one of the things it talks about is your fabric. So before we go through all the listings, let's talk about fabric options. So this teddy bear, if you notice, is really, really cute with a diverse number of prints. You can go fat quarter, which I highly recommend. And so I have some fat quarters that I know a lot of people like. They ran into the store and they're like, I need that pattern for today. I'm not sure what fabrics to use. So if you want to look that we have on the front of the instruction sheet, I would recommend fat quarters. These are great because they give you small pieces of fabric, roughly 18 by 24 inches in width. So it's not a lot of fabric, but here you get a diverse of 10 different prints, which is really nice. And that will give your teddy bear a nice diverse look, which I love. So we have this one here that I have, which is this beautiful pink and orange. It's called Lover's Rock, which I think is cute, perfect for the occasion. And then we have Black Love, which is filled with these beautiful black and whites and reds, perfect for Valentine's Day. So definitely check those out if you're looking for any fabrics that you would like. Easy, easy, easy. A number, at least 10 prints in each packet. And again, that's Lovers Rock and Black Love. Now, if you're the type that don't want so many prints, you want something very, very solid, we have something for you as well. And if you notice, they have different scales, which I really like, which I want to talk about. Because this is a teddy bear and this is a really small piece, you don't want a really large scale, okay, when it comes to the motif. So if you notice, I picked these two different prints here. This one is called Hot Love Pink, okay, Hot Pink Love, sorry about that. Hot Pink Love, which is this print right here. I'm gonna open that up. And if you notice, the scale is really, really small, which is perfect for this great teddy bear. Also, we have this other print here. Again, that's Hot Pink Love. This one is called Pink Black Tribal Print. Pink Black Tribal Print, which is another cute, nice tribal print. But look how many different diverse prints that you can find in these little small pieces, which I thought is really nice. Now, one of the things that this pattern does talk about when it comes to making your teddy bear, if you want a contrasting color, and here you can see I paired it with a nice black. So you can pair it up with a nice solid color. You'll notice in the picture it does have some solid colors there, which I think is pretty, pretty cool. All right, so that's enough about fabrics and different options. Again, you can see these fabrics on our website. Again, the fact quarter was Lover's Rock, okay, in pink, Black Love, with this beautiful black and white print. And then, of course, we had the pink and black tribal print, and we also had Hot Pink Love. Oh, okay, I'm gonna make a mic adjustment real quick. Okay, we hope that's better. All right. If you missed anything, just let us know, okay? All right. So we talked about all those different fabrics. We talked about the fabric booklet. We talked about the instruction sheets. Let's go back to the additional supplies that we need. And so again, that's on the back. And if you notice the main fabric, which I would consider my main fabric, my African print, because I love African print so much, this would be considered my main fabric. So you'll roughly need about half a yard, okay, to make a pillow. Now, it does mention your contrast fabric. And again, your contrast fabric, if you need to look at where those pieces are, it says the ear and the foot pads. So if you notice where, if you look at your picture, you'll see where the ear and the foot pads are. And again, if I was using this print, I would pair it up with black. Now, you could just use that one color. It's really up to you. Remember, this is your bear. All right, the other supplies it talks about is using baby clothes, old baby clothes if you want to use that. So there's some options there. It also talks about craft eyes. Now, for me, I'm planning on using some really large, funky buttons. Okay, so it's really up to you. So if you plan on it, I definitely highly recommend eyes. If you just feel like one of what my purposes are, I'm just going to use some gold buttons. It also mentioned embroidery thread, and as you can see, I have some embroidery threads here, different colors. I'm not sure which one I'm gonna like with my print, so I just have a few options here. Okay, I may change those colors out later. And again, this would be for the nose and the mouth. It also talks about having some felt for the nose. So if you wanted to have some felt fabric, you can. If you don't have felt fabric, it's nothing for you to run out to the store. It's only for the really small piece. You can use the fabric instead. So you don't have to use felt. You can just use your regular fabric. And then there were some other general requirements that were needed. Your basic sewing supplies, which is your thread, your pins, your needles. I highly recommend an assortment of needles. And so I have an assortment of needles here. And the reason why is because remember earlier I said we'll need to be closing up our teddy bear. So we need a good hand needle. And then we also need another style of needle, like more of an embroidery needle for those embroidery threads. Okay. So you want an assortment of needles that can handle the different levels of crafts that you or hand sewing that you're going to be doing. So multi case is going to be perfect for that. You need your scissors, your sewing machine, all those basic sewing things that you'll need. It also talks about craft glue and a firm card for a template. Hmm, what is that, Tisha? Well, here at So Lounge, we love something called uh, Roxanne glue, and it's great for basting. So it's just going to hold it in place. It's not going to leave a lot of residue. So we tend to use this a lot. So I usually use Roxanne glue when it comes to my fabrics. The other thing it mentions is a card. And if you don't have anything else, even just a piece of cardboard, it would be perfect for this project. If you could find something a little thinner, then go for that. But start with something that's easy, like a piece of cardboard. It also mentioned that you'll need a fine tip marker, like a Sharpie. And so here I have my Sharpies here. I love a Sharpie. Okay. And it also mentions having fabric markers. So if you have any fabric markers are going to be great. I like Mark Be Gone because I can write on it and just a squirt of water. It can just dissipate. So I really love this. So I'll be using this as well, especially when it's time to mark all of these pieces. I think they're like 14 pieces, but we'll get into that later. So I love this tool for marking on my fabric. And then, of course, last but not least, it talks about stuffing, and that's just your poly stuffer. And so here I have a nice little assortment bag of it. And I'll be stuffing my teddy bear with this polyfill. Okay. Now another thing that I recommend that is not on the supply list. Let's talk about that. And that is interfacing. Now we'll be using cotton fabric, the African print fabric that I mentioned earlier for making your teddy bear, but I highly recommend interfacing your pieces. Okay. For me, because there's so many pieces, I'm going to interface the entire fabric. Yes. And you'll see me in that process. So I highly recommend pulling out some interface. A lightweight interfacing will be more than enough. You don't need anything heavier than a lightweight. I think once you get it to medium heavy, it's too stiff and you won't be able to shape the fabric like you need to for the teddy bear. So a lightweight interface would be perfect for that. I also think freight check is going to be helpful because we're going to have really small pieces with really small seams, quarter-inch seams. This is very unusual for sewing for garment sewers. Quilters, you're going to be okay. So if you find that the fabric you're using, especially for some of these small pieces, may fray quickly, much quicker than you can sew them, then use some fray check. Okay, so depending on my fabric, how it's going to behave, I may need to use this. So if you see me grab this, then you understand why. Um, Another tool that I'll be using, people always ask me, what's the seam ripper you're using? Remember, we're making this teddy bear, and I am hoping not to remove any seams, but in case I need to, I want a really fine point on a seam ripper, and Chloe tends to be my friend when it comes to that. So I'll be using the Chloe seam ripper as well. Is there anything else that I'm missing? No, other than the basic other tools, that is pretty much it. So again, all of these supplies that you need is going to be on the back of your pattern instruction sheet. I just read them off. Just some additional ones that I prefer to use and to stabilize my fabric. Wow. With that being said, did we have any questions? Any questions? Let me know if we have any questions before we move on. All right, so we talked about the fabric, we talked about the book, we talked about the supplies and the interfacing of the fabric. Okay, but let's talk about our instruction sheet. So let's go through this first. And just like any other project, I read my instructions from front to back. Yes, Tisha do. Because this is going to help me plan for the big thing. This helps me gather all of my supplies, it gets my fabric ready, everything. So I want to go through the instruction sheet. So on page one, it talks about recommended fabric, and I've already talked about that earlier. It tells you to interface your fabric, especially if you're using anything that might be a little stretchy or a little thin, you want to interface. But because I'm working with lightweight cotton, I am going to bring my fabric over. I have this Valentine's fabric, and I love this so much, which is really nice. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, Tisha, where did you get that fabric? Oh, I remember that. Do you have more? Cecily's looking into that. But the reason why we use this fabric, African print fabric, is because with African print fabric, it's really, really hard to tell what's the right side and what's the wrong side. So when I go to sew and pull out the African print fabric, and I'm looking at both sides, and I'm putting this together, this is really going to be hard for you as a viewer to know what side I'm talking about. However, with this cotton fabric, you can tell what's the wrong side, what's the right side. And for the camera purposes, I will be using this fabric. But I highly recommend go ahead and use your African print fabric for this. I'm just using this for camera purposes so you can really understand when I'm putting these pieces together what's the wrong side and what's the right side. And it happens to fall right in theme with a Valentine's taste. So I love that. So I'll be using this fabric. Now you'll notice that this fabric came much wider than your typical African print fabric. This fabric was like 60 inches wide. So I really had to cut it down for the purpose of this project. So your fabric may not fit wide or as width-wise or length-wise. I'm using a different fabric, and that's the reason why. Okay. So it really talks about interfacing the fabric. So let's look at this fabric. And because I have lightweight here, I went ahead and not only cut the fabric down, but I interfaced it as well. So what you're seeing here is not the true back. I've actually pressed in to the back. Yeah, there's interfacing here. If you notice, there's two layers here. It was a need, again, to remove this before the layout because it's a really big interfacing. It's nothing for me to fuss about. It's okay. It's a tech on top of that. It's not that serious. But I have more than enough fabric here for my layout. So I highly recommend pressing in your back of your fabric if you're going to be interfacing it. It's going to still need, especially for this fabric, it's just too light. So that's why it's interfaced. All right, so as we move along, it talks about the general materials that you need. Again, it's the main fabric, the contrasting fabric. So for me, if I wanted to use a contrasting color, I could use this black. I think I had another piece over here. I thought I had a gray. I may have put the gray back, but it's okay. It is okay. So I could use this black for contrasting. Oh, I did. I have my pattern pieces on it. It's okay. It's coming. So we have that contrasting fabric, the eyes. Uh, Again, I'll be using buttons, embroidery thread for the nose and mouth, scraps of silk, and then your general requirements. And again, that's the basic sewing supplies, your craft glue, your template, which I'll be using a cardboard, the stuffing, we already talked about that, and a fine tip permanent marker, which we already showed you that, which is my Sharpie. Now that we have everything in place, everything has been laid, the fabric has been prepped. Let's move on to our pattern pieces. There's a lot to this, okay? So let's set that aside and let's bring back over our pattern pieces. All right, as you can see, here's my pattern pieces. We went through this earlier with the different names, highlighting the different names in yellow, okay? On this one here, that's my bag. Oh, I had two sets. I did do this. Sorry about that. Here they go. They're right up here. All right. So now that I have these in place, now it's time for me to highlight the notches. Mhm. Now, our notches are these little slits. These are going to be extremely important, especially when it's time to put this teddy bear together around all these curves. So each of these pieces not only have a name, they have notches on them. So the notches are little slits. Ah, here's one right here. So right here at the top, this is the back head. You notice that right at the top is this little slit. I want to pay attention to that. So I'm highlighting that. Now here's another one. So you want to go through each of these pieces and make sure that you are highlighting the notches. So my back head had one, my side head had one, my foot pad, that has two. Okay. I'm gonna move on to each pattern piece and do that. Okay, there's none here on the outer leg, the inner leg. The forehead. The forehead has four. Look at that. It has four. My nose has two. My ear has two. My face has, oh, one, two. Two there. Okay. And here I am at my inner arm and my outer arm. Oh, they have quite a bit. So my inner arm has two, one at the top, one at the bottom. The outer arm has two at the top, one at the bottom. And I'm just moving on to the next piece. So here we have the back. The back has quite a bit. That's one, two, three. And here I am at the last page, which is the tummy. And that's one on the side, and that's it. Now, let's pay attention to this, the tummy part. You'll notice it says look at the bottom. And at the bottom of each of the pattern pieces says join pieces here before cutting out fabric. So we need to bring these two pieces together. So this is going to be the first one that I grab put together and make sure I take them. So let's go ahead and do that now. So grab paper, scissors, and I'm just going to rough up this out. All right, now we're going to join these together with a piece of tape. So I really want to trim this down to that line so that the lines are sitting on top of each other. Oh, right here. Got the wrong side. Let's try that again. Nice. That makes it really, really nice. Okay, so let's get some tape and let's put these together. All right, that's one, that's two. Now we have one entire piece held together. That looks nice. All right. Now, before I continue cutting anything out, is there anything else special about these pattern pieces? Nothing. That's it. I think other than that, highlighting them with their names on, marking the notches, which I think is extremely important. We've done that. So now it's time for us to cut out our pieces. Now, this is a good time. If you have any questions, this is a good time to catch up, review if you have any questions. I'm gonna just cut out this page and then we'll move forward. That way it gives you some time to get yourself ready. All right, it seemed like it was quiet in the room. Okay then. All right, with that being said, let's move on. And you will continue to cut out your pieces. Continue to cut out all of your pieces, okay? All your pieces. Again, you want to highlight the names, come back with a different color and highlight the notches, okay? So I'm going to set this aside and move on to our next step. And that's our layout. Now, before we move on to the layout, let's look at our page in our instruction sheet. You'll notice in the layout, it talks about glue on the pattern pages onto the card. Now, this is if you were making a template. Now, sometimes people want to use two different, they want to use two different patterns to make their reverse sides, the left and the right side. However, because I'm going to be putting my pieces together, right sides to right sides, I will automatically gain a left and a right. So that's what I'm gonna do. But if you feel comfortable making a template so you can have a left side and a right side, you can. There are, and I'm gonna highlight this in a different color. Let's see, in a blue. There are pieces that are not, if you pay attention to this diagram, there are pieces that are not duplicated. They're only cut out once. And those are the center pieces. You'll notice at the very center of the shaded and non-shaded pieces, the very center, there are two pieces with arrows in them going down that are not duplicated on the other side, the shaded side. However, you'll notice everything outside of that, moving from the left or the right of the center, you'll notice that those pieces are duplicated. So I notice that these two are duplicated, this row is duplicated, this row, so forth and so forth. The only two that are not And I know it's this piece and this piece. Just those two. You only need one of those. So I could technically just use the right and wrong side of my fabric on a fold. So mine will look like this. Again, on a fold. Okay. This layout, if you notice in the picture, it is just laid out as though it's one layer. Okay. However, Tisha's going to be folding her fabric so that she can get, yep, two out of one cut. All right, so let's go ahead and lay out our fabric pieces. And I think I'm going to lay it out this way. Yes. Now, another reason why sometimes they'll have you to do the reverse, the right and the left side, as you can see here in this layout, I want you to pay attention to your fabric too. If your fabric happen to have words, unidirectional, if your fabric has words, you want to make sure that you have a left and a right side because your words will come out backwards from one of your pieces. This is why they have this layout. If you have anything that has a head, you want to pay attention to your layout. So just think about it. Anything that has a head, has eyes and a mouth, it's directional. Anything that has letters or numbers on them, it's directional. So you may want to use this layout if your fabric has that any of those prints. However, my fabric, although it has words on it, guess what? They're going in all kinds of directions. And I think I'm okay with it. Okay? I'm okay with it. So it really depends on your fabric. All right. Now that I have my fabric in place, now it's talking about the pieces. Okay. And we want to take our pieces and lay them out as we see them. So I'm going to start with everything. If you look at the very center, everything is the center. And so that is my and my back head. My forehead and my head. So my forehead, if you look at the shape of your pattern piece in your layout, and then look at your pieces, that's your right underneath it, back head, forehead, back. Now remember, these pieces only need one of them. Right. Two layers here. But let's just leave this here for the sake of just leaving it here, okay, for placement purposes. Now let's move on to the next piece, okay? Next to that, and I'm moving to the right, that is the tummy. And here's my tummy. And that was the piece that we joined together. This one wasn't taped, so I'm gonna go ahead and tape this one together. Look at that, beautiful. So that is the tummy. That was a piece that we joined together. All right, and our next piece, as we move further to the right, that is our outer leg, our back, outer leg, and our back. Moving right along, the next row. That's our nose, arm, and side head. Again, that's nose, inner arm, and side head. Now that last row is the outer arm, the face, and the inner leg. Now I can definitely get all my pieces on this piece, which is nice. All right, now there's two other pieces that are missing, right? And those are our contrasting. Now, remember we talked about this earlier. You can put those in the same print, or you can put those in the contrasting print. So what would that look like for me for contrast? Say if I was using this gray piece, here would be my two contrasting pieces. That will be the ear and the foot pad, okay? The ear and the foot pad. And you notice that they are cut twice. So you can just fold the fabric if you want so that you can get two of them at one time. And we'll come back and notch this because we're going to cut these pieces out. Now in total you have 14 pieces. You should know your patterns. How many did you have? I had 14. Now there are two that were joined. Okay. So in total you'll be cutting out 13 pieces. So let's count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where's my 7? My 7 is over here. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 was part of 3 and 14. Okay. So make sure you count all your pieces. You have all of them. Again, there's one, which is the tummy that you'll join together. So instead of them being two pieces, they will become one piece. Okay. Now that everything fits and I like that, I'm good. I know that these are the two pieces that I only need to cut out once. However, everything else I need to cut twice or mirror the image so I have it left and right. Remember, you want to use your layout in your instruction sheet for that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use this pattern piece on here. So I'm coming back to notch them. Just to mark the notches. And then I'm going to come back and pin them down. All right, I think I have everything in place. All right, so let's go ahead and pin everything down. And I've already have my contrasting pieces already pinned, so those are good to go. So I can start cutting those out. Everything else on my larger sheet, I do need to cut out. And this one, I only need to cut one of this. I'm just going to pin this to one layer of the fabric. And this one layer. All right, let's go ahead and continue pinning everything down. Now, before you finally pin everything, I want you to check one other thing, and that is called the grain line on your fabric. This teddy bear has a lot of curves, so you want to be true to the grain line. And what do you mean by the grain line, teacher? Do we have another marker with different color? Yes, we do. Blue. On your pattern pieces, you'll notice something with a large line and an arrow connected to it. That is your grain line. If you notice, all the grain lines on all your pieces should be going in the same direction. So if you have turned your fabric for the sake of saving fabric, try your best to keep everything on the same grain line. It's extremely important, or it will not fit correctly. All right, so everything is going in the same direction. I noticed that this piece is tilted a little, so I want to bring it back to the grain line. There we go. Grain line, grain line, grain line. Beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and pin everything down. Now, there's one thing I did notice. There's nothing that's cut on the fold on this piece. Nothing that's been cut on the fold. So, any questions so far? Any questions? Everyone's doing good out there. Everyone had a wonderful holiday. I hope so. All right, so we come into the tail end of all of those pins. Put two more in here. Oh, here we go. We had some right here. All right, that looks really, really good. Make sure I have everything pinned really, really well. And then we can start cutting. All right, two more. Now, Tisha, you're using a lot of pins. Yes. You know why? Because this is a really small piece. These pieces are really, really tiny. As soon as you lift everything up, it tends to shift on you. So I am using a little bit of pins. Unlike if I was using making a garment, I wouldn't need any pins because I have a lot of straight lines. This pattern piece has a lot of curves, intricate turns, and twists and everything. So I really want to pin it really, really good. So I am using a lot of pins. And I love my little handy dandy wristlet because it holds some pins for me while I'm working. All right, so it seems like I have everything in place. Now it's time for me to cut out. So we want to go ahead and cut everything out, okay? Now, once everything is cut out, I do want to talk about those notches because I want to make sure that everything is ready and prepared for tomorrow. That's right, for tomorrow. So let's talk about that. Let's cut out our first piece. We're going to cut out these pieces here. Then we'll stop. We'll do the rest for homework, right? So that we're ready for tomorrow. So let's set this aside. And I want to cut right up to that line as close as I can get. Really sharp scissors. And if I find that I need more pins, I will put more pins in place. I do. All right, that's looking good, looking good, looking good. Again, getting right into that curved area, taking my time. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so let's cut out these other two pieces. And remember, these pieces were single layer pieces. We didn't need all the two cuts of them. We just need one. Put some of them together. That's okay. All right. So that looks good. All right. So let's go ahead and cut out these pieces here. Again, you want to cut really up on that line, as close as you can get, really on that line. There we go. That looks really good. Okay, let's cut out that center. Okay, so that was the back head. This is the tummy. We're gonna cut out this last piece. Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Enjoyed Martin Luther King's Day and celebrating his birthday. A lot of people are like, Tisha, where have you been? Tisha's been taking care of family. I think a lot of people have asked, hey, I hope everything's okay. It is. It is. Hubby had a major surgery in December, and so he needed someone to take care of her. So I was busy taking care of my other half. So, but he is doing well. Again, thank you for all of the well wishes. So here we are. All of our my pieces. I'm gonna just say some of them are cut, all of them are not. So for homework, we will be doing this every day for 3 days straight. Okay, for 3 days straight. Uh, that just reminds me. They have to. I think I did say this. Yes, I've been taking care of hubby, and hubby has appointments tomorrow. So we may have to reschedule our time for tomorrow for later in the evening. Okay. Um, so we will probably send out a little reminder about that. So we'll be doing this for 3 days. So for our first day was really about going through our pattern piece, talking about our instructions, our pattern piece, laying them out, gathering all of our supplies that we needed. Okay. Homework, I want you to finish cutting out your pieces. Okay. Finish cutting out all your pieces. The other thing that I want you to do is don't forget to cut the notches, snip your notches. Now you notice when your pattern pieces, the notches are very different. Mhm. They're like little slits. Those are notches. So for my garment sewers, don't freak out. They're not your traditional triangle notches. They're like these little slits. So you're going to make little slits. Now you'll notice that these slits go beyond the stitch line. Please, this is the only thing I ask you to pay attention to, which is why I had you to highlight in pink. Don't go past the stitch line when you snip them. I know that the picture and the icon has slightly cut past the stitch line, but don't you cut into the stitch line, okay, past that point. Just cut up to that. So again, all your notches just to that point, just to that point, okay? So for example, I'm gonna take my scissors, and I always tell people when you're snipping, use snippers, use smaller snippers because you have more control, unlike big scissors. And a lot of times we'll want to snip with scissors with our tips of our scissors wide open. And this will only allow us to make more of a mistake and cut beyond the point which we need. So I just want to use the tip of my scissors and I'm going to snip just to the stitch line. And you can see that on your pattern piece. Don't go past the stitch line. I know it's going past it, but don't you snip past that. So again, I want you to snip all of your notches. There are a lot of them. There's got to be about 20, probably 20 to 30 notches just for this teddy bear. Now, not only will you snip them, aha, guess what else I want you to do? Because on the back side, it may be hard to see. I want you to take a piece of chalk. I'm going to take this piece, just lift it back. And I'm going to just highlight this with my pink highlighter. Now you will use chalk, Okay, I'm only using this, doing this for the camera. Well, Tisha, you did it. I don't want you to have white highlighter on your teddy bear if it's not meant to be there. But I'm only doing this for the camera so you can see it. So with a piece of chalk, you want to mark the back side of those notches because we don't want to guess. Sometimes I'll usually put pins in them. I'll do something like this. You see that? So I can see them. But because these pieces are so small, I'm gonna have a lot of pins sitting out. So that's gonna drive me crazy. It would be no problem if this was a garment, but because it's a teddy bear and it's really small, and just think about it, I have 14 pieces. I don't want all those pins sitting out. So I'm going to mark the back of the fabric. This is the back with my chalk marker. Mark be gone, whatever tool that you're going to use, okay? That way, when it's time for me to start putting these pieces together, it will be easy for me to know where they are. You see that? Really nice. Okay. So I'm going to do that for all of my notches. Not only will you cut out everything, you're going to notch, slit your notches, and then you're going to mark the back of your fabric. Okay. Mark the back of your fabric where those notches are. Now, some people will take it even further. Let me grab this one last one before I forget. That was right at the top. So there's 4 notches in here, okay? Before I remove this piece, now again, I'm just going to use a marker that's really not good for fabric, but this is my Sharpie. Some people really want to know the name of this fabric. So if you find that you want to write the name of it, probably put it in the corner or down at the side of something, but at least you can always refer to it. So this is my forehead, and I'm just using my Sharpie because it's easier to see. At least I think it is for the camera anyway. That's my forehead, and I am done. Okay. And you want to do that for each of your pieces, each of your pieces. So for today, all we're doing is gathering our materials, prepping our teddy bear, coming back to highlighting our instructions, laying out all of your pieces, making a decision whether you're going to be using one fabric, 2 fabrics for contrast, or a multi-set. This is your time to make that decision. Whatever you do, you want to make sure you press out your fabric. You want to interface your pieces, okay? Interface your pieces before you cut them out. It's easier to cut them both at the same time when the interfacing is pressed to the fabric, okay? Once you determine on your fabric, lay everything out, cut out your pieces. Once you cut out your pieces, you're going to notch your pieces, okay? Write the name on them and be ready to sew for tomorrow. Sew for tomorrow. So let's come back over to the front. Look at there. So I hope you had a good time prepping everything, getting everything together. I want to say before we end, do we have any questions today? Any questions? I can't see anything, so I am leaning on my partner to let me know if we have questions that need answering. Don't forget to gather your supplies. This is going to make sewing your teddy bear much easier once you gather everything and plan, plan. Having a nice layout of pieces is going to make help putting these pieces together. With that being said, Cecily, do you have any questions? I don't think so. I think we're good to go. And I want to say before, while she's letting me know, I want to just. Oh, we did. Okay. No. Okay. Good. Oh, thank you. Yes, she just made a long way and everything. Thank you so much. Thank you. So because I'm still taking care of my husband, There's some other things just kind of run by, check in on them and everything. We may need to schedule this for later in the evening. We will let you. How we will let them know? You want to just post on Facebook? Okay, and we'll post the time and everything. And I will see you tomorrow evening. Okay. Don't forget, be ready to sell. All right. I will see you then. With that being said, take care, everyone, and I will see you all tomorrow.